Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for joining. And today we have a very special guest, Sushrut, and he is a medical student from Newcastle University, and he is going to be presenting about life as a medical student in Newcastle. So yeah, I'll just hand over to him and hopefully find this helpful.
Thank you. So yes, I'm Sushrith. I'm a medical student in Newcastle University. Originally from Belfast, so I grew up in Belfast, and I've moved to England to pursue medicine at Newcastle. So today I'll be speaking a bit about my, how life is as a student in Newcastle University, how life is as a student in general, and a lot more about the application process and what it takes to get into medicine in the first place. So could you get my PowerPoint up so I can see it?
Can you see that?
No. I just see your picture.
I am sharing though.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I see it. Okay. So life as a student, first of all, it's a big change from living at home. So this webinar question here, is this for aspiring medics or incoming first year medical people? It's for both. I think this is useful for someone that's going into first year and someone that's applying as well, because the first part of this is me speaking about life as a student. The second part is going to be the application process. So I think both parties can benefit from this. So first of all, life as a student, it's a lot of independence. You know, it's very different to living at home. No one really is too bothered about how you perform, what you do, and there isn't anyone telling you, do this, do this, do this. Um, so it's really easy to fall into bad habits like scrolling TikTok, staying up late, and so on. So I think my biggest advice for just going into uni, first of all, is um, biggest advice for going into uni is have a routine, have some discipline with the fun you have. Okay. So next slide. So what is Newcastle like specifically? So Newcastle, it's in the northeast of England. Own airport, good train station. It's really well connected to London as well. You can just get a train. I think it's 2 hours. It's not too bad. And one thing I like about the city is that it's really cheap and affordable. I personally I hate spending money on something that's overpriced, that's not worth it. So it's very affordable, and it's got a huge student population as well. So there's, I think, 1 in 6 people is a student in Newcastle because there's two big unis here, Newcastle and Northumbria. And, people know Newcastle as a party city. I'm not much of a drinker. I don't really go to clubs or anything like that. So even for me, there's lots of things to do in Newcastle, and I truly believe there's something for everyone there. So yeah, next slide. So this is the more important aspect of today's webinar. So more specifically about medicine at Newcastle, and this applies to a lot of unis, not just Newcastle. So the course structure in Newcastle is CBL. So that means case-based learning, and it's very similar to PBL, problem-based learning. So we basically get a number of cases each year. Okay. Um, I think it's 13 in first year, 12 in second year. And these cases, each one is a disease essentially. So, first of all, case one was hypertension, so high blood pressure. We learned about the relevant anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, pharmacology in relation to that disease. I hope everyone understands. So, case two was the heart and heart disease. So we learned the relevant anatomy, physiology for that, and so on. So that's how essentially we learn medicine. It's a very new approach. Most medical schools do this. Um, if not CBL, it's PBL. And only very few places like maybe Oxford, Cambridge is traditional. So that's, you learn the full body's anatomy and the full body's physiology, full body's biochemistry, and so on. So year one and two is the preclinical years in Newcastle, and again, maybe 90% of medical schools in the UK. First 2 years are preclinical. You're just in lectures, seminars, the same as any other course. And then third year onwards, you get placement. So you're essentially like a student doctor. So you'll be in the hospitals like a 9 to 5 pretty much every day from year three onwards. And what's unique about Newcastle is it's called a regional medical school, which means that it covers a wide area of hospitals and different trusts. So you get placed in different zones, they call it. So 1 year you'll be in zone one, 1 year you'll be in zone two, 1 year is zone three. And it's the same as the London zone system. So like zone one is like right next to Newcastle. Zone two is a bit further. Zone three is quite far away. So that's how it works. And the placements are, they start from third year onwards. And yeah, next slide. So what does an average week look like for a year one medic? Um, so for me, there was about 4 lectures a day, including seminars as well. So when I say 4 lectures, I mean lectures or seminars. Um, and this is different depending on the uni. So I know Manchester does like literally no lectures at all. They have like maybe 2 or 3 a week or 3 or 4 a week. So Newcastle's not like that. Newcastle has a lot more lectures. Is that a good thing? I don't know. I'm not sure. It depends on the person. But um, Newcastle having a lot of lectures is good to just get you up in the morning, get you going. And then throughout the week, we'll have dissecting room and clinical skills, which is relevant to whatever case we're studying. So, example, case three is kidneys. Okay. We'll have a dissecting room um, that week on the kidneys, and we'll be learning specifically about the anatomy relating to the kidneys, the peritoneum, and the surrounding structures, and so on. And then for clinical skills, say we're learning about, I think it was case six, maybe it was the lungs. During that case, we'd also have clinical skills session where we would go and learn about how to, um, perform a respiratory exam. And it's really fun. Dissecting room was probably my favorite part of learning. I don't think I learned much from lectures and seminars. I think I learned better reading myself and doing things. So it was quite good. The dissecting room and clinical skills is really hands-on. That's something I'm quite keen on. Another thing I want to mention is that a lot of people say that medicine is so intense. You've got to study, 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 study. But that is not the case at all. That is not the case. You've a lot more free time. And don't listen to what other people tell you. This is the truth. You have a lot more free time than you think. So you should put it into something useful. I took the gym a lot more seriously this year. But if you have any other hobbies that you're good at, you like doing, invest more time into it in uni. And if you want to work as well, people say, oh, it's impossible to work as a medical student. There's not too much to study, this and that. It's completely possible to work as a medical student in first year at least. Second year, third year, fourth year onwards, maybe a bit less realistic. First year, 100% completely feasible. Next slide. So this is a really important thing. So going into medical school, um, it's completely different to A levels and GCSEs. So everyone revises different ways. For GCSEs, A levels, what I did, I would just get the textbooks for each of my subjects, and I would just highlight the textbooks and revise off that, and then I would do past paper questions. Easy. That's all I needed to do. And it was fine. But in medical school, it's not like that. If you revise something once, you need to go over it again a few times. And it's not like A levels and GCSEs where you can get away with it reading something, a few times. You have to repeat it couple times for it to fully go in. And that's where this thing called Anki comes in. It's so useful in medical school. I know people who used it during A levels as well. Um, so it's a flashcard app, and basically it'll show you something. It'll ask you a question maybe, and then you press. did I make notes in first year? I'll get to that. I'll get to that. So I would use Anki's and I would just do those. And basically, the way it works is things that you find more difficult in the flashcards that you don't know, don't understand, that come up more often, more frequently. Okay. So it really fills in the holes in your knowledge. And I think it's really good. That's all I used for first year. And anything I didn't know or didn't understand, I would look up a YouTube video or I would just put it into Google and read more about it. And I had a question. Someone asked, did I make notes? No, I didn't make a single note during first year. And also these Anki's, I didn't make any Anki's either. I got them from a year two. And why did I not make notes? One, I really don't enjoy it. I think it's not something I like doing. And I don't really see a need to make notes as well when there's year twos, year threes who've already made really nice notes and they're just sitting there. They're not going to use them. So yeah, how do you understand the content if it's just questions and answers from Anki's? Again, this is what I would do. You could basically copy paste the whole thing, the whole Anki into ChatGPT, and it will give you a really nice explanation of what it is. Okay. Most of it, like when you're learning the cards fresh, for me at least, I had to do that for pretty much all of them. Copy paste the whole card into ChatGPT and say, explain this simply, and it will give a really nice explanation. And if it's something I'm really not understanding, I would, if something I'm really not understanding, I'll watch a YouTube video on it. But that's mostly like physiology, biochemistry stuff. If it was anatomy, the university would give us this um what's it called? This pre-work, they'd call it. You do this pre-work before going into a dissecting room, and it would be really nice, explaining everything. And once you go into the anatomy dissecting room and you actually see everything and do it, it stays in your head really well. So for anatomy, it's not that difficult. And the Anki's are really easy for anatomy. But the big writing Anki's with for like biochemistry and physiology, I think ChatGPT is your best friend for that. And this is not just me doing this. Literally every single person I know does this, and it's a really high yield way of learning, and it's much easier than other methods. Okay, so next slide. And by the way, if anyone has any questions about what I'm saying, what I'm doing, just put it in chat and I'll answer it as I'm going along. Because if we wait till the end, I might lose the flow of what I'm saying. So if you have any questions as I'm saying it, just put it in chat. Okay. So this is the big thing for all the year 12s watching this, applying to medical schools. The biggest thing with this is you need to apply strategically. That's the most important thing. So say you have good GCSEs, you're predicted, just not A stars, you're predicted maybe A's at A level, and you have like an average UCAT, okay? What would you do then? Apply to schools that value GCSEs highly. So you have strong UCAT, apply to schools that favor the UCAT highly, and so on. You know, you should go through each of the medical schools that you're thinking of applying to and really play to your strengths. Whatever you have going for you, if that's A levels, UCAT, GCSEs, apply to schools that favor them. So, example, strong GCSEs, Queen's University Belfast, they really, really favor strong GCSEs. If you have all nines, you're guaranteed an interview in Queen's pretty much, no matter what your UCAT is, even if it's really below average, they don't really care. Same goes for like Bristol. If you have a really high UCAT, apply to Bristol. Um, and Newcastle recently changed the way they wanted it. The before it used to be mostly UCAT. You wanted a high UCAT, but these days you need a good UCAT and good GCSEs for Newcastle, so it's a bit more difficult. But apply strategically and make sure that you apply to places where you're guaranteed interviews. I can't stress that enough. Make sure you apply to places you're guaranteed interviews. At least two or three of the things you apply to should be in a way that you'll get interviews there. Um, and then the fourth one you apply to can maybe be a bit more aspirational if, there's a place you're really keen on going to. Okay. And another thing I want to stress as well is that no matter where you go in the UK to study medicine, it is the exact same. Okay. In terms of the degree you get at the end of the process. So someone who goes to Oxford compared to someone who goes to like I don't know, Kiel or Sunderland or something, okay? People would look down on those medical schools. But it makes no difference. For F1, F2, you're in the exact same position as them. It does not matter where you go to medical school, okay? That does not matter in the slightest. And a big thing, where should you apply? How should you apply? Do so much research. Do a lot of research on the cutoffs for last year, the year before that, the you know amount of people that get in post interview. I think that's an important statistic as well. Lots of people overlook this. So just off my memory, like Exeter, for example, I think it has really high post interview percentage of people who get offers. So, factor all these things and make sure you apply strategically because the goal at the end of the day is to get into medicine. So, Gian de Guzman asks, are these statistics about certain universities favoring some parts of your application just something you get from researching each university, or are there resources that summarize this? So, um, the good question. This is the thing. You've just got to go out and look it up online. There are places that compile all these things. I have something, it's really outdated, but I can send it to you guys if you want. It's because this is when I was applying like last year. So this isn't really relevant anymore because a lot of unis change how the application system or the things that they favor. Um so basically it was called My UCAT, okay? And it summarized like the roughly what A levels you need, what GCSEs you need, what UCAT score you need for each uni, and it had a nice compiled list. At the minute, because I'm not applying for medicine, I'm not really sure where the best resources there are to summarize this at the minute for this academic year. But just research it online. And I think TikTok, like people won't tell you this, TikTok is a really good place to look for these things because this resource I had last year or 2 years ago when I was applying to summarize all these things was I found it through TikTok. So there you go. Look it up online, on YouTube, on TikTok. Join any WhatsApp groups you can, and I'm sure you will find what you're looking for. Okay, next slide. So big thing. What do you do once you get those interviews? Okay, if you're in this webinar, I'm sure you're smart enough to get a couple interviews at least. Okay, so it's such a crucial part of this process, the interviews, and people really overlook them. It's like if you they think if I have good GCSEs, good UCAT, good A levels, good stats across the board, I'll get into wherever I want. But that's not the case. Interviews is make or break, literally make or break. And you can take it as a rule of thumb about like for I'm really generalizing here, it's different across different unis, but about half the people who interview get in, you know? So if there's 8 people in the room, you want to be in the top four at least. Okay. And the way the interviews work, there's two types really. So there's MMI and there's panel. And I was when I was applying to medical schools, I had both MMIs and panels as part of my interviews. And I think the MMIs are completely different. It's a very unique way of interviewing people. It's like 7 one-on-one interviews, or however many stations there are in the uni. It depends. So it's like lots of a series of one-on-one interviews, and each thing is completely different. There'll be role plays, there'll be some basic questions, and then there'll be completely random questions as well. I remember in one of my interviews, someone showed me a TikTok. Like there was a woman with an iPad, and she literally just held it up to me and pressed play. And it was just a girl vaping or something. And she was like, "What do you think of this TikTok? Explain this." So it can be completely random, and you've just got to be prepared for anything in interviews. But the big thing is, it's the same as the application process. You need to research about where you're interviewing for. So, example, like Newcastle, see the things I said before. that it's CBL, that it's a regional medical school, that it's I didn't say this, but it's there's not dissection, there's prosection in Newcastle. All these things, if you mention to the interviewers while you're interviewing, it's a really good sign, and it shows them that you've put in the work, that you know what you're talking about, and that you're really interested in that medical school. Even if there's like, say you apply to four places, but there's one place you really want, don't let that be known. Act as if you really want every place you interview, you really want that medical school. It's your dream medical school from day one. That's how you've got to be. And apart from that, I think a big thing is to just not stress, just be yourself, just talk to the person. It's a normal person sitting opposite you. It's not like forget about everything. You're talking one on one to another person. And I think a really big thing as well is to smile. Someone told me this advice when I was going to do interviews, and I think it made such a big difference. When you just smile and the person smiles back at you, just subconsciously, it just puts you at ease. It just puts you a bit less stressed, you're a bit more relaxed, and I think it's really, really useful. So reach out to me, okay? I've I got 4 out of 4 interviews for medicine, and I got 4 out of 4 offers as well. I got 3 A stars, a top 10% UCAT, and I got all my offers in the first round. So that means that I got very high scores in my interviews because the way they give out offers once you do the interviews, they give it out based on points. So the people with the highest points get their offers first. And because all the interviews take place over a long time, they can't give out all the offers at once. That's why they stagger it a bit. So um, I'm available for tutoring. I think that interviews is my strongest point, and also my UCAT and A level. They're good scores, but I'm saying in terms of me tutoring, I'm really keen and passionate about tutoring for interviewing and public speaking and things like that. So if you have any questions, any advice you want, just WhatsApp me. There's my number. Everyone here, take a picture of that. And if you have any friends that are applying to medicine, that are going into year one, anything like that, don't be afraid to send my contact further on to them. And yeah, thank you for all having me, and thank you all for listening as well.
Thank you. Can I just ask, what unis did you apply to?
Okay, so I applied to Queen Mary, Newcastle, um, Dundee, and Exeter. Exeter wasn't something I was keen on, but it was like a guarantee. I was guaranteed an interview, and the amount of people that get an offer once they get an interview in Exeter is like 60 something percent. It's really high. So that was like a safety for me, Exeter.
Yeah, that's nice. Amna asked, why did you choose Newcastle over the three other medical schools?
Okay. And yeah, anyone with any other questions, just feel free to ask. Um, so why did I choose Newcastle? Well, one, I'm from Belfast, so going from Belfast to Newcastle, one is very cheap and it's very easy, For me to get door to door, so from here in Belfast to Newcastle is like half an hour flight and then 20 minutes to the airport from each place. So it's like an hour and a half door to door. So really handy. Um, and again, the place is a lot. I have a family friend in Newcastle as well, so we know them. We've known them for ages, and my dad actually used to work in Newcastle, so he has a few people he knows, a few friends as well. So personal reasons why I chose Newcastle really mainly over Barts as well. Barts is really good. I'd say Barts is like it's ranked very highly. It's a great medical school, and I did get it, and it was a toss up between those two. It was Barts and Newcastle. Which one do I take? But I think Newcastle, because of all the personal reasons I said, I chose that. But if it was pure academics, I'd probably choose Barts first.
All right, thank you so much. This was really helpful. Thank you for coming on here and talking about your experience. If you have any more questions for Sushrut, please just put them in the chat and hopefully he'll answer them.
Yeah, just put them in the chat. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Sushrut. All right, can we have Ahmed to do starting year 12 and 13 strong, please?
Hi everyone, I'm Ahmed. I'm in year 13, so part of what I'm going to say now is from my own experience as well, from my research as well. So this is like a guide on how you should prepare for the start of year 12 and 13 to make sure you have a good experience and to probably maximize your grades and help you do your best. So the first thing I would say is romanticize learning. It's not like you fall in love with the act of learning, basically. You can do it in many ways, but the best way is from the minor things like arriving to lesson early, putting your best in every lesson, always putting your hand up when your teacher asks you. So these little things, they help you enjoy your lessons, right? Even if you do not realize it like physically, internally you'll realize you engage with the lesson, so you feel actively engaged. You are more likely to enjoy and you're more likely to take on new things from the lessons. You're more likely to learn better as well. So from that learning effectively, that will help you with your grades. And it'll also help you with your mindset because you're actively engaging, you're not as tired in the lessons, you will feel better going to the lessons. Second, I would say is building a good rapport with your teacher. Sorry, that's the next slide. So being a, building a good rapport with your teacher doesn't just mean you're a teacher's pet. It means you basically have the teachers to like you. I've been told this by a year 13 who was above me, who's left college now. So it could be like just saying hi or having a small conversation with them in lesson, but getting to know the teacher and having the teacher like you is really important for year 13, especially when the teacher has to prioritize students who they choose to help. Because in year 13, especially, teachers become very busy helping the students because there's a high demand, since everybody's focusing on their mocks and everybody's worried. Teachers have to choose the students who they can think will gain the most, and if the teacher already knows you, they're more likely to prioritize you. And so you're more likely to get the help you might need, which is really important if you're struggling with the lessons. And the next slide, please. Thank you. So putting effort into how you dress. So I got told this from somebody else as well. But it might sound a bit off, but you don't have to dress to impress other people. Just dress well enough because if you dress well, you're more likely to feel well. It's actually proven by a scientific study that the way you dress impacts your mentality. So putting effort into the way you dress may make you more open to in your lessons, so you might study more effectively. So sorry, that's really it. And then fourth reason is take care of your health. Health is probably the most important factor in your education. Without good health, you risk not being able to perform your best. And if you can't perform your best, then your grades go downhill. You don't want to limit your health. You don't want to limit your ability due to poor health. So exercise regularly and make sure you have a good diet ensures you stay fit and you stay in good health. So another scientific study actually I came up on, students who exercise regularly tend to have higher grades because exercising is actually good for your brain. So it also helps your retention. So the more you exercise, the more or you're able to retain, the better you will be able to perform in lessons, especially stuff like flashcards. It's important for retention, but if your brain is limited through retention, then your memory is also limited, which again helps with the exams. And I wouldn't say it's important to like leave your studies for a while just to exercise, but it's important to make sure you're able to ensure you study effectively while ensuring you exercise during your free time. So step away from the work and work out for a bit without passing on like any deadlines for your courses. So starting off year 12, it's a lot different to starting off year 13, but there are some similarities. One difference is that year 12 is a lot more social than year 13 might be because in year 12 you're meeting everybody for the first time. So everybody might be shy initially, but it's the time when you make your friends the most really. So I would say the best way to go about it is join a lot of clubs and extracurriculars. It isn't just a one way to make friends. Joining a lot of extracurriculars and clubs does put you out in front for the other teachers as well. Teachers see you as outgoing and it reflects really positively on you. So when it comes to your references and when it comes to how the teachers reflect on you, it does make you look a lot better. And two, with people as well, yes. Joining a club, it's another way to stay fit and it's another way to be social. So it's good for your health as well. So next, I wanted to mention a phrase I've been told like over and over again. College isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. You shouldn't just focus on just how you start college in year 12. It's how you maintain it and how you keep on going throughout the whole of the year. You shouldn't just focus it like spend hours and hours a day at the start of year 12 on your subjects just to burn out and then uh, basically give it no time. You should plan your days out. You should make sure you know what you're going to do, and you should try and make it a habit and stick to it throughout the rest of year 12 if you want to stay consistent and make sure you're doing the best you can. Year 13, please. Thank you. So year 13 is really different to year 12. I'm just starting it now, so I'm speaking not from my own experience, but from what others have told me and from my research. So year 13 is really different. It's a lot more academic and it's a lot more strenuous. So it's even more important to follow the tips from earlier. So in year 13, the course gets a lot more difficult. I've been told that the gap from year 12 to year 13 is massive, like more than the gap from GCSE to year 12. So it's really important that you discuss anything you like, any worries you have, any gaps in your knowledge with your teacher, and more about the knowledge gaps. Year 13, it builds largely upon year 12. Everything you learn from year 12, year 13 will like evolve and get harder from that. So if you have any knowledge gaps from year 12, you need to ensure you get rid of them and you'll fix them, because if you have those gaps from year 12 knowledge, you risk not doing well in year 13 for those related subjects. So during this time in year 13, you get a lot of extra responsibilities, such as your UCAS applications, mocks. So for this, you want to make sure you're not putting anything off, because a lot of these things like UCAS application, I know I was spending a few hours on my personal statement last night. They take a lot of your time. So if you leave one to aside for a second, it might come to overwhelm you later on. So I'd suggest making a timetable to make sure you've planned out the time you're going to spend on each and you know when not to, so that you have a clear path and you're not just picking and choosing which one you should work on. It makes sure that you give every single aspect of your life the time they need and make sure you get everything done that you need to. So as we move through year 12 and 13, there's you need to remember that grades are important, but so is your health. So take time to rest, eat well, and look after your mind, look after your body, because you can't perform your best if you're running empty. Thank you. So if anybody has any questions, let me know.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. Can we have Mufassir for top tips for starting medical school? And obviously, if you have any questions for Ahmed or Sushrat, please just put them in the chat and hopefully they'll get to you.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm Mufassir. I'm a medical student at Barts in London, and I'm just going through a few tips that I would have found helpful going into first year. Next slide, please. So, as you know, medicine moves quite quickly, so lectures can pile up. So it's very important that during the first few weeks, in particular, you try to attend all the teachings available. So lectures, group teaching, clinical sessions, so that you can get into a routine right from the start. There's a lot of new terminology you're going to come across and covering all the broad topics in medicine during the first few weeks. So it's normal to feel overwhelmed. Everyone does. So to overcome this, I'd recommend that you learn how to prioritize. So filter out what's core for your exams and what can be filed away. And usually your exams are proportionate to your lectures. So if you study something for 1 week compared to you had lectures for 5 weeks, that's more likely to come up. Uh, so your studies in first year will sort of be broken down into anatomy, physiology, and histology. And a little tip for histology, because arguably that's the hardest part to revise for, at least for me. Lecturers like to reuse histology slides in the exam. So I'd recommend to create a bank of those images and the stains that's been used, and then you can go over it in your study week, like a week before the exams or something. For anatomy, it's really important to learn the language and the technical terms. So in the first few weeks, when you start anatomy, cover those first. And then when you go in to do your dissections or whatever, I would recommend when you're writing down your notes, come up with acronyms, especially when you're learning the different types of muscles, blood vessels, or the cranial nerves, because there's a lot of information. Acronyms will help you to remember it. Next slide, please. So in terms of studying, the best technique I find is active recall and spaced repetition. And there's a lot of ways to do this. So use the first couple of months you have to find out what works best for you. And sometimes this takes the whole year in all honesty, because there's no, and I think this was mentioned before, there's no like set textbook or past papers you have to follow. So it's very different from A levels. You may hear a lot of people talking about Anki, which is quite a useful tool to create flashcards. But it can build up. So if it's already done by older years, ask them for it. Everyone's really friendly, so everyone will share resources. Don't try to rewrite like full lecture notes because that's gonna be quite long. If you do like to write things down, then maybe summarize it into a page. And what I did is I worked with other people to split the lectures up and then share the notes, which can save a lot of time. And if you don't like to do any of that, there are a lot of online resources you can use. So I think I put this down in a couple of slides later on. It's like Teach Me Anatomy or Zero to Finals. They're great. I'd also recommend starting question banks early on because they will tell you what's high yield and they will get you very familiar with the SBA format, which nearly all medical schools use. So those are short, best answer questions rather than multiple choice questions. And next slide, please. So there's a lot of lectures and they are recorded, so you can always come back to it. So don't be afraid if you miss anything. To make lectures more useful for yourself, do some pre-reading or preview topics because you'll be able to hear keywords in context. Lecturers go into a lot of depth, so if you haven't done any pre-reading, it's going to be very difficult to understand. So I'd recommend watching like an osmosis video beforehand. I'll talk about this more later on. And during lectures themselves, because like most of them are 2 hours long and you might have four in one day, just aim to capture the essentials rather than everything and try annotating the slides on your laptop or if you print it out, just do that just to help keep yourself engaged. Next slide, please. So you have your OSCEs, which is going to be quite new. So these are your observed practical procedures that you're going to be examined on at the end of the year. And hands-on skills need repetition. So practice history taking and examination on your peers, or you can even use AI, you can use ChatGPT. I found that teaching others consolidates your knowledge. So join like peer-led OSCE sessions, run mock stations with your friends. I even found like volunteering as like an OSCE patient for older years very helpful because I learn from them. And I put in a great resource here. So Geeky Medics will probably be your best friend when it comes to OSCEs. But even so, my biggest recommendation would be to attend all your in-person clinical skills because your university only does this just once, so don't miss those out. So here's a few resources that I used. So always use a mixture. So videos are really important for visual topics, so especially for anatomy, and then question banks for exam techniques. You can use Anki if you want for long-term retention. I know there's a lot of resources. Try to use as much as possible. Sign up for trials if you don't want to pay for lots of subscriptions. There's quite a few question banks actually that your university students might have created. So like for me, during my first year, I lived off something called SpotterMed. because that was created by Bart students and it correlated really well with my end of year exams. So check if there's something similar for your university. Next slide, please. So time management is really important. You don't want to fall behind. So I always say treat studying kind of like a job. So have it scheduled, have measurable blocks. So you can treat it as a 9 to 5 if that helps you. A nice trick to have is keeping a buffer week. So that means you're 1 week ahead, so that you have a catch-up time for any like external commitments you might have. Or if there's a topic you missed beforehand, you can cover it then. I didn't really mention it here, but sleep is really important. You don't want to go into a lecture tired, because you just won't retain any information. Next slide, please. So there's not a lot of placements during your first year. Most of them will be a couple like GP days. But even then, clinicians appreciate prepared students. So do some short pre-reading beforehand on any expected conditions you might come across. Bring a notepad on your placement. Even if you don't think you're going to use it, it makes you seem curious and engaged. And I'll recommend to keep like a logbook of what you've done and learnt and try to get some feedback from your GP. So that helps build up your portfolios and write your reflections for the end of years. The key thing you want to take away from your placements is building your communication empathy skills. So if there's certain phrases that a clinician might use that you think is helpful for yourself, jot it down and then adapt it in your OSCEs because they will mainly assess communication skills in your first year. Is that the final slide? Yeah, okay. I did put my contact details in there, but I'll just jot it down in the chat. And if you have any questions, you can just put it in there.